The air here, it's not air. It's more like light, but you can breathe it. And the colors, oh, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a color I've ever seen. It was more like color as a feeling. A deep, velvety indigo that felt like being swaddled in silence, utterly safe, but then it would shift, rippling into this vibrant, impossible emerald green that hummed with pure, unadulterated joy. It wasn't a visual green, not like on Earth. This was the feeling of growth, of spring after a long winter, amplified 1,000 times. And the light, oh, the light! It felt like warm honey, viscous and embracing, not hot, just deeply comforting. There was a soft, resonant hum that filled the space, like 1,000 perfectly tuned bells, each note distinct yet blended into a single harmonious chord that vibrated right through me. It wasn't sound as I knew it. It was more like the universe breathing a melody. The temperature was a perfect, comfortable warmth, like a summer evening when the sun has just dipped below the horizon and the world holds its breath. There was no up or down, no sides, no edges, just this boundless expanse of being, and in it, I felt a profound, unburdened joy. It wasn't happiness derived from anything specific, no memory of a good meal or a kind word. It was the joy of existence itself, stripped bare of all earthly complications. I could feel it radiating from everywhere. And then, just as I was starting to understand, truly understand, that this was not a dream, that this was real, the honey light began to recede, the bells quieted, and a jarring mechanical beeping started to intrude. And then I was back in the hospital. My name is Elias Thorne. I'm 62 years old. My days are spent coaxing life back into antique carousel horses, chipped paint, and tarnished brass. I'm a restorer, a meticulous perfectionist, which, if I'm honest, spills over into most parts of my life. My mornings usually started the same way. Before the sun even thought about rising, I'd be in my workshop, the smell of wood polish and linseed oil a familiar comfort. I'd pick up a brush, and for a few quiet hours, the rest of the world just faded away. It was just me, the horse, and the delicate dance of bringing it back to its former glory. I used to be raised religious, back when I was a kid, but that was a long time ago. Life happened, and faith, for me, drifted away like smoke. I didn't believe in anything I couldn't touch, couldn't see, couldn't measure. The tangible was my world. But even with that careful, measured life, there was always this undercurrent of regret. My daughter, Sarah, we had an argument years ago, stupid and loud and final. She's an adult now, and we haven't spoken properly since. That silence between us, that was the thing that gnawed at me. Just last week, I was fixing a chipped wing on a galloping horse, a deep crimson one, and I remember thinking about Sarah. She always loved the red horses. It was a fleeting thought, gone as quickly as it came, swallowed by the concentration required to smooth a microscopic imperfection. Just another Tuesday, really. I was worried about getting the gilding just right on a new acquisition, a gilded lion with a chipped ear. It was a small thing, really, but for me, it was everything. I needed it to be perfect. Did you have any sense, looking back, that something was coming? In hindsight, there were little ripples. Nothing I'd have called a premonition at the time, just oddities. A few days before, I was in the grocery store, reaching for a carton of milk, and the entire aisle just shimmered, like looking through heat haze but indoors. It lasted maybe a second, then it was gone. I shook my head, figured I was just tired. I'd been putting in extra hours on that lion. Then there was the dream. It wasn't a scary dream, not at all. I dreamt I was standing on a vast, empty plain, and all around me, tiny, perfect bells were ringing. Each one was a different note, but they all harmonized. I woke up with that sound echoing in my head. This pure, clear resonance. I dismissed it as just my subconscious working through the usual anxieties. I thought I was just tired. I just wanted to get that lion restored, get back to my routine, my quiet world. I never gave it any real thought. Just another tired old man seeing things. Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. The overcast and humid air hung heavy outside St. Jude's Hospital. A damp blanket I barely noticed. I was in operating room 3, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, casting a sterile glare on the masked faces of the surgical team. They were preparing me for a routine procedure, something minor, they'd said. The last thing I remember clearly was the cool, dry air of the room, the faint chemical tang of antiseptic, and the sterile, slightly metallic scent of the surgical drapes pulled over my chest. I felt the cold, sterile metal of a clamp against my skin, a fleeting discomfort, and then something shifted. It wasn't pain, not exactly. It was a sudden, crushing pressure, a vice clamping around my chest, squeezing the air right out of me. My breath hitched, a ragged, involuntary gasp, and in that instant, a profound stillness descended, not of peace, but of absolute finality. The beeping of the monitors became a frantic staccato assault, then began to distort, elongating, fading into a low drone. I could see the surgeon's eyes, wide behind his mask, a flicker of surprise, then concern, then something else. Urgency. The room seemed to tilt, the voices of the team blurring into an indistinct murmur. I saw one nurse's hand reach out, a fleeting gesture of perhaps reassurance, or maybe just habit, and then the sound. It wasn't a sudden silence, but a gentle, almost polite cessation, like a curtain being drawn. The last sensation before I was truly gone was a strange warmth spreading from my chest, an unexpected softness blooming in the void where my breath had been. The paramedics later told my record that I was clinically dead for approximately 6 minutes. 6 minutes. And then I was elsewhere. The shift wasn't like falling or flying. It was more like stepping through a doorway that wasn't there a second ago. One moment I was feeling the last icy tendrils of my physical form retracting. The next I was simply present in a space that defied all earthly dimensions. It wasn't that the operating room dissolved. It was more like the concept of that room ceased to be relevant. I didn't pass through anything, no tunnel, no mist. It was like the entire universe rearranged itself, and I was suddenly standing in a different, infinitely more profound existence. Imagine, for a moment, that you are a single drop of water in a vast ocean. You are aware of your own existence as a drop, but then suddenly you realize you are the ocean. All of it. Every wave, every current, every hidden depth. It's not a metaphor for an ocean. It is the ocean. That's the closest I can get to describing the transition. But even that feels wrong, too solid, too defined. It was like all the boundaries I understood, the boundaries of my body, of my reality, simply evaporated, and I was allowed to exist, fully and completely, in a way I never had before. The first thing I noticed wasn't sight or sound, but the absence of things. The absence of weight, for one. I was no longer tethered to gravity, no longer burdened by the subtle ache of my joints or the constant hum of my internal organs. It was like shedding a suit of armor I hadn't realized I was wearing. And then there was the absence of strain. No need to breathe, no need to think about blinking or swallowing. My body, this vessel I'd inhabited for 62 years, was gone, and with it, all the demands it made. This freedom was intoxicating, a pure, unadulterated relief. It was as if a lifetime of tension had simply melted away. And then, the environment. It was a place of impossibly deep, velvety indigo, not a dark color, but a color that felt like being embraced by infinite peace. It was the color of the deepest ocean trench, but lit from within, luminous and alive. And woven, through it, like threads of pure joy, were veins of emerald green. Not a green you'd see on a leaf or a gemstone, but a vibrant, pulsing green that felt like the essence of life itself, like laughter made visible. The light wasn't coming from anywhere in particular. It was just there, pervasive and warm, like being bathed in liquid sunlight, but cool, like honey that flows without heat. It wasn't light as I understood it. It was more like light as a feeling. The whole space seemed to resonate with a soft, musical hum, not a sound heard with ears, but a vibration felt in the very core of my being. It was like a chorus of celestial bells, perfectly in tune, each note a distinct vibration of pure harmony. The temperature was a perfect, comfortable warmth, like the most exquisite summer evening, the kind where the air is soft and balmy, and you feel utterly at ease. There was no up or down, no walls, no ceiling, just this boundless, shimmering expanse. It was the most beautiful, terrifying, and utterly peaceful place I could ever have imagined, and yet it was also utterly familiar, like a forgotten home. And then I felt a presence. It wasn't a visual apparition, no form I could recognize from earthly life. It was more like a consciousness, a profound, benevolent awareness that simply was. And with that presence came a feeling, an overwhelming wave of pure, unadulterated joy that washed over me, erasing every worry, every regret, every ounce of pain I had ever known. It was the joy of being truly seen, truly understood, for exactly who I was. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that this presence was Sarah, my daughter. But not the Sarah I knew, the one etched with the lines of our estrangement. This was a Sarah of pure essence, of infinite love. I recognized her not by her face or her voice, but by the quality of her presence, the infinite tenderness that radiated from her. It was like recognizing the sun, even if you'd never seen it before. There was a specific detail that confirmed it, not visual, but a felt sensation. A memory of her laughter, a pure bell-like sound that I hadn't heard in years, but now resonated through this space, amplified, a symphony of pure delight. The message wasn't spoken, not in any language I could comprehend. It was downloaded, a knowing, a direct infusion of understanding into my consciousness. It was about Sarah. It said, in essence, that she didn't blame me for that argument, that the pain I'd carried about that fight, about our estrangement, was a burden I had borne alone. She remembered something else. The summer I taught her to ride her bike, the scraped knees, the wobbly handlebars, the sheer terror and triumph of those first few moments of freedom. She remembered the pride in my eyes, the way I'd held her hand steady, then let go, and she'd flown. That was what she held on to. That and the quiet hum of our life before the storm. And the message continued, not in words, but in a profound wave of knowing. You are seen, Elias, and you are loved, imperfections and all. It wasn't just an abstract statement. It was a direct acknowledgement of every failing, every regret, every moment I'd ever felt inadequate, and it was met with an unconditional, boundless love. It felt like a dam breaking inside me, a lifetime of self-recrimination simply dissolving. I wept, not tears of sadness, but of profound, overwhelming relief. I understood in that instant that the perfection I'd always chased in my work, the absolute flawlessness, was an illusion. True beauty, true love, existed in the acceptance of imperfection. And then they showed me something, not a grand tableau of my life, but a tiny, forgotten moment. I was a young man, just starting out, and Sarah, she must have been barely 3 or 4, had a drawing she was so proud of. It was a series of scribbles, but to her, it was a masterpiece. I was tired, preoccupied with some work problem, and I'd barely glanced at it, muttered a perfunctory, "That's nice, honey," and gone back to my papers. In this space, I saw the hurt flicker in her little eyes, the way she crumpled the drawing slightly, her shoulders slumping. And I understood, with a clarity that made me ache, how much those small moments of dismissal, of not being fully present, had accumulated over the years, chipping away at the foundation of our connection. It wasn't malice, just carelessness. And in that moment, seeing it from the outside, with the perspective of eternity, I understood the depth of what I'd lost through my own inattention. Then the pressure returned. Not the crushing, fatal pressure of the heart attack, but a heavy, insistent tug. It felt like being yanked backward through layers of thick, viscous fluid. There was a flash of my workshop, the smell of sawdust, the cool metal of a tool in my hand. It was like being forced back into a suit that was too small, too tight, too heavy. My lungs burned, not with suffocation, but with the sheer effort of drawing in air. The vibrant colors of the other realm fractured, shattering into a million sharp shards of light. And the sound, oh, the sound. The gentle hum was replaced by a cacophony, beeping, voices, a sharp, insistent beeping from a machine right next to my head. And then a voice, blessedly familiar but rough with exhaustion. "Elias, Elias, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand, Elias." It was my daughter, Sarah. She was there. Her face, etched with worry, swam into focus. The first thing I felt, beyond the crushing weight of my own body, was the absolute, undeniable reality of her presence. It was overwhelming, almost too much to bear. The world felt too bright, too loud, too separate. It was as if the profound unity I'd experienced had been brutally torn asunder, leaving me adrift in a fragmented reality. The first thing I heard, after the heart monitor, was a nurse complaining about her shift ending. "Welcome back, Elias. They kept me in the hospital for a week." Sarah stayed, mostly. She'd sit by my bedside, reading to me, or just holding my hand. We didn't talk much about it, not directly, but there was a new current between us, a tentative bridge being rebuilt. The day I went home, she helped me into my own bed. I sat there for a long time, just looking at my hands, my workshop tools laid out on the workbench. That evening, I picked up a pencil and a piece of paper. I didn't call it a letter to Sarah. It was just me talking to her, pouring out all the things I'd felt, the things I'd seen, the things I'd finally understood. I wrote about the bike, about her laughter, about the shame I'd carried for so long. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't even know if she'd read it. But the act of writing, of articulating those feelings, felt like the first step in shedding that old armor. And then there's the watches. It's a strange thing. My wristwatch, it stopped for the third time this week. I'll wind it, set it, and then, within a few hours, it just stops. Every single one I've tried. It's a small thing, almost comical, but it's a constant reminder. A subtle glitch in the machinery of my restored life. The other day, Sarah called. She was upset about something at work, a minor misunderstanding. Normally, I would have been distracted thinking about the lion, about the perfection I still couldn't quite achieve. But this time, I just listened. For 45 minutes, I just listened. I didn't interrupt, I didn't offer solutions, I just let her talk. And when she finally hung up, I felt quiet. Not the empty quiet of my workshop, but a full, resonant quiet. The kind you feel after a deep, satisfying breath. Kind of quiet. It was the kind of quiet I used to find in the deep woods behind my childhood home, before the city sprawled and swallowed it all up. It was a quiet that held promise, not emptiness. It's funny, the things that catch you. The way a mundane object can become a profound symbol. My watches, they're all stopped. The antique pocket watch my grandfather left me, the sleek digital one I bought myself after college, even a cheap plastic one I kept in my workshop for timing finishes. All of them, inert, stopped at precisely 2:15 p.m. It's as if time itself, on my wrist at least, is still held captive in that operating room. It doesn't bother me, not really. It's just another oddity. Another sign that the Elias Thorne who walked into St. Jude's that Tuesday is no longer the same Elias Thorne who walked out. Or perhaps the one who never truly walked out at all. The truth is, I don't fear it anymore. The cessation, the stillness. I've glimpsed something beyond the veil. And it wasn't an abyss. It was a homecoming. It was the truth I'd spent a lifetime searching for in the grain of wood, in the curve of a metal rod, in the impossible perfection of a gilded wing. The truth that perfection isn't about flawlessness, but about acceptance, about embracing the chipped paint, the tarnished brass, the worn edges. It's about the story those imperfections tell. And my story, it turns out, is far from over. It's just begun to be rewritten in a language of love and understanding I never thought I'd speak. Sarah. That name still feels like a foreign country sometimes, a place I visited long ago and haven't quite found my way back to. But now when I think of her, it's not with the knot of guilt and regret that used to constrict my chest. It's with a lightness, a hope that feels almost scandalous. I see her face, not the worried one from the hospital, but the bright, mischievous one from my childhood memories. The way her nose would crinkle when she laughed, the fierce determination in her eyes when she was learning something new. Those are the things I hold on to now. Those are the echoes of that impossible emerald green. I've started sketching again, not carousel horses, but abstracts, shapes and colors that try to capture that feeling, that hum. It's a poor imitation, I know, like trying to describe a symphony by drawing a single note. But it's my attempt to translate, to make tangible the intangible. I fill notebooks with these attempts, pages and pages of indigo and emerald, of flowing light and resonant vibration. It's a form of prayer, I suppose, a way of keeping that connection alive, even if it's just between me and the paper. And the letters to Sarah. I've filled 3 binders now. Each one a confession, an apology, a declaration of love I was too proud, too afraid, too lun to say out loud for so long. I don't send them. I don't even know if she'd want them. But the act of writing them, it's like excavating layers of rock to find the pure gold beneath. It's a slow, painstaking process, but I'm no longer afraid of the dust. I'm eager to find what's hidden. I still find myself staring at my wrist, at the still hands of my watches. It's a physical manifestation of that moment, that pause, but it's also a reminder that time, as we perceive it, is a construct, a human invention. What I experienced, that was something else. It was being outside of time, existing in a state of pure awareness. And that awareness, it's still with me. It's in the way I approach my work now. I'm still meticulous, yes, but there's a gentleness, a less frantic pursuit of perfection. I see the beauty in the imperfections, in the history etched into the wood. Each scratch, each faded patch of paint tells a story, and I'm no longer trying to erase those stories, but to honor them, to let them shine through. There are days when the memory of that place is so vivid, so potent, that I almost feel I could step back into it. The hum, the light, the sheer unburdened joy. It's a tantalizing pull. But then I feel Sarah's presence, a faint echo of that overwhelming love, and I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Here, rebuilding, reconnecting. It's strange, isn't it? To be given a glimpse of eternity, only to find its greatest lesson in the mundane realities of Earth, the imperfect, messy, often painful reality of human connection. I spent so long chasing an idealized version of myself, a flawless craftsman, a man free of regret. But that experience showed me the truth. The truth that love isn't earned, it's given. And it's given most freely when we allow ourselves to be seen in all our glorious, messy imperfection. I often wonder if Sarah feels it too, this subtle shift. If she senses the change in me, in the quiet that now surrounds me, a quiet that isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. I don't know if she'll ever read those letters, or if she'll ever understand the magnitude of what I experienced. But I know, with a certainty that transcends all earthly logic, that she doesn't blame me. She remembers the summer I taught her to ride her bike, and that, for a man who spent his life trying to restore the past, is a future worth holding on to. The days unfold with a new rhythm. The workshop, once a sanctuary of solitary pursuit, now feels like a place where I'm learning to listen, not just to the wood, but to the whispers of my own heart. The ticking of my stopped watches is a constant, quiet reminder. A reminder that what matters isn't the ceaseless march of minutes, but the quality of the moments we choose to inhabit. And I am choosing to inhabit them, fully, imperfectly, and with a profound, unburdened joy that still, after all this time, feels like warm honey on my soul. I am seen and I am loved. The restorer, it turns out, is finally being restored. The world outside remains as it always was, overcast and humid at times, bustling and indifferent. But within me, a new season has dawned, one of vibrant, impossible emerald green, forever kissed by the light of that deep, velvety indigo. And the hum, I can still hear the hum if I listen very, very closely. It's the sound of everything, finally, coming home. The way the light falls in my workshop now is different. It used to be a utilitarian glare, focused on highlighting every flaw, every imperfection I needed to correct. Now it seems to soften, to embrace the dust motes dancing in the air, transforming them into shimmering specks of gold. It's as if the very light has changed its perspective, or perhaps it's my perspective that has changed. I find myself pausing more, just watching the play of light on the aged wood, on the intricate mechanisms of the carousel horses. Each dent, each scratch, no longer a mark of failure, but a testament to a life lived, a journey taken. I was working on a particularly stubborn gear mechanism the other day, a small brass cog that refused to yield. In the past, I would have battled it, my frustration mounting with each failed attempt, my perfectionism screaming for a swift, decisive victory. But this time was different. I found myself speaking to it, not in anger, but in a quiet, almost conversational tone. "Come on, old friend," I murmured, my breath warm against the cool metal. "We've got a long way to go, you and I. Let's just work together." And strangely, almost as if it understood, the cog eased, sliding into place with a soft, almost sighing click. It wasn't a sudden revelation, but a gentle unfolding, a confirmation of that profound interconnectedness I'd glimpsed. Everything, it seemed, was capable of responding to understanding, to gentleness. Sarah sent me a postcard last week, just a picture of a beach, waves crashing against the shore. No words, no message. But on the back, in her familiar, slightly slanted handwriting, was a single, small heart. That was it. One tiny, red heart. It was more than enough. It was an acknowledgement, a silent bridge across the years of silence. I traced the outline of the heart with my fingertip, a lump forming in my throat. It was a small gesture, a flicker of light, but it felt like a beacon. I've been thinking a lot about the argument, the one that fractured us. It wasn't just words, it was years of unspoken resentments, of misinterpretations, of a stubborn pride that blinded me to my own failings. I see now how my obsession with perfection, my inability to accept my own limitations, had seeped into every aspect of my life, poisoning the most precious relationships. I wanted to be a perfect father, a perfect man, and in striving for that impossible ideal, I became profoundly imperfectly present. I was so busy trying to fix the external world, the chipped paint, the broken springs, that I neglected the most important restoration project of all, my relationship with my daughter. The writing, though, that's been the true therapy. I found a rhythm to it now, a steady flow of thoughts and feelings that pour onto the page. I don't censor myself. I write about my fears, my regrets, my profound gratitude for that brief, glorious glimpse of another realm. I write about the lingering feeling of that honey light, the resonant hum of the bells. And I write about Sarah. I write about her childhood, about the laughter I can still almost hear, about the scraped knees and the triumphant smiles. I write about how I wish I could go back and tell that younger Elias Thorne to put down his tools, to simply hold his daughter, to tell her how much she was loved, not for her achievements, but for who she simply was. Sometimes, when I'm deeply immersed in my work, lost in the intricate dance of restoration, a faint warmth will spread across my wrist. I'll glance down, expecting to see the steady tick of a functioning watch, but invariably I'll find the hands still, frozen at 2:15 p.m. It's a gentle reminder, not of death, but of the profound shift that occurred. A reminder that I am not the same man who was led into that operating room. I carry something with me now, something of that other place, a resonance that continues to shape my earthly existence. There's a new piece in the workshop, a magnificent winged lion, its gilded mane dulled with age, its ear chipped, just like the one I was so obsessed with before. But this time, I look at it with different eyes. I see the story in its wear and tear. I see the craftsmanship, the artistry, but I also see the passage of time, the hands that touched it before mine, the lives it has witnessed. And I feel a quiet sense of purpose, not to erase its history, but to honor it, to bring it back to a place where its story can continue to be told. I still have dreams, of course, but they're not the anxious, restless dreams of my past. They're vivid, technicolor immersions in that indigo and emerald world. I can feel the viscous honey light on my skin, hear the celestial bells vibrating through my very being. In these dreams, there are no regrets, no estrangement, only a boundless, unburdened joy. I wake up feeling lighter, clearer, as if I've been bathed in pure possibility. The transformation is subtle, like the slow unfurling of a petal. It's not a grand, dramatic change, but a quiet recalibration of my entire being. I'm still Elias Thorne, the antique carousel restorer, the meticulous perfectionist, but I'm also something more. I'm a man who has glimpsed eternity, who has been loved unconditionally, and who is slowly, surely, learning to love himself, imperfections and all. The estranged daughter, the argument, the regret, they are still part of my story, but they are no longer the defining chapters. They are footnotes, lessons learned, stepping stones on a path that now leads towards connection, towards understanding, towards a quiet, resonant peace. I've noticed that sometimes, when I'm particularly lost in thought, a faint warmth spreads across my wrist, and I instinctively glance down. My wristwatch, predictably, is stopped at 2:15 p.m. It's become a comforting, albeit peculiar, companion. It's a physical anchor to the moment that redefined me, a constant reminder that time, in its earthly iteration, is a fluid, malleable thing. What truly matters isn't the relentless ticking of the clock, but the quality of the moments we choose to fill it with. And I am, for the first time in a very long time, filling my moments with a sense of profound purpose and a quiet, unshakable joy. The workshop, once a sanctuary of solitary pursuit, has become a space of quiet communion. I find myself talking to the horses, to the gears, to the wood itself, not out of delusion, but out of a newfound sense of empathy. I understand that each piece has its own history, its own story to tell, and my role is not to erase those narratives, but to honor them, to let them shine through, to bring them back to a state where their inherent beauty can be fully appreciated. It's a subtle shift, but it has permeated every aspect of my work, transforming a laborious task into a meditative practice. And the letters to Sarah, they continue to flow, each one a confession, an apology, a testament to the enduring power of love. I write about the summer I taught her to ride her bike, about the sheer terror and exhilaration of those wobbly first rides, about the fierce pride I felt as she finally found her balance and soared away from me, her laughter echoing in the warm air. I write about how, in that moment, I felt a profound sense of rightness, a feeling of having done something truly good in the world. It's those memories, those pure, unadulterated moments of connection that I cling to now. They are the vibrant emerald green woven through the deep indigo of my past. The other day, Sarah called. It was a brief conversation, just a few minutes. She was calling to ask about a specific type of varnish. Normally, I would have launched into a detailed technical explanation, my mind already racing ahead to the next project, the next challenge. But this time, I simply listened. I let her finish. I asked clarifying questions, and when she finally hung up, I felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. It wasn't about the varnish, it was about the connection. It was about being present for her in the small, mundane moments of her life. I've begun to notice other small, peculiar occurrences. When I'm particularly engrossed in my work, a subtle warmth will spread across my wrist, and I'll glance down to find my watch, yet again, stopped at 2:15 p.m. It's a strange, recurring phenomenon, a gentle nudge from the universe, reminding me of where I've been and where I've found myself to be. It's not a morbid reminder, but a profound one. A testament to the fact that while my physical body may have returned to the realm of the living, a part of me remains tethered to that extraordinary space, to that profound, unburdened joy. The core message, the one that resonates most deeply within me, is that I am seen and I am loved, imperfections and all. It's a message I'm still internalizing, still learning to fully embrace. The meticulous perfectionist in me still fights against it sometimes, whispering doubts and insecurities. But the Elias Thorne who experienced that glimpse of eternity knows it to be true. And that knowledge, that profound understanding, is transforming me from the inside out. I am no longer just a restorer of antique carousel horses. I am a restorer of my own spirit, a craftsman of connection, and a man who has finally learned to appreciate the beauty of the imperfect, the worn, the deeply loved. The indigo and emerald hues of that other realm have become the palette of my new life, painting my world with a profound sense of peace and an unshakable, unburdened joy. The hum, that resonant chorus of perfectly tuned bells, can still be heard if I quiet myself enough. It's the sound of acceptance, of forgiveness, of a love that transcends all boundaries, all time, all space. And it is, in its own way, the most beautiful restoration of all, joy. It's the sound of everything finally coming home. The workshop, once a sanctuary of solitary pursuit, has become a space of quiet communion. I find myself talking to the horses, to the gears, to the wood itself, not out of delusion, but out of a newfound sense of empathy. I understand that each piece has its own history, its own story to tell, and my role is not to erase those narratives, but to honor them, to let them shine through, to bring them back to a state where their inherent beauty can be fully appreciated. It's a subtle shift, but it has permeated every aspect of my work, transforming a laborious task into a meditative practice. And the letters to Sarah, they continue to flow, each one a confession, an apology, a testament to the enduring power of love. I write about the summer I taught her to ride her bike, about the sheer terror and exhilaration of those wobbly first rides, about the fierce pride I felt as she finally found her balance and soared away from me, her laughter echoing in the warm air. I write about how, in that moment, I felt a profound sense of rightness, a feeling of having done something truly good in the world. It's those memories, those pure, unadulterated moments of connection that I cling to now. They are the vibrant emerald green woven through the deep indigo of my past. The other day, Sarah called. It was a brief conversation, just a few minutes. She was calling to ask about a specific type of varnish. Normally, I would have launched into a detailed, technical explanation, my mind already racing ahead to the next project, the next challenge. But this time, I simply listened. I let her finish. I asked clarifying questions, and when she finally hung up, I felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. It wasn't about the varnish, it was about the connection. It was about being present for her in the small, mundane moments of her life. I've begun to notice other small, peculiar occurrences. When I'm particularly engrossed in my work, a subtle warmth will spread across my wrist, and I'll glance down to find my watch, yet again stopped at 2:15 p.m. It's a strange, recurring phenomenon, a gentle nudge from the universe, reminding me of where I've been and where I've found myself to be. It's not a morbid reminder, but a profound one. A testament to the fact that while my physical body may have returned to the realm of the living, a part of me remains tethered to that extraordinary space, to that profound, unburdened joy. The core message, the one that resonates most deeply within me, is that I am seen and I am loved, imperfections and all. It's a message I'm still internalizing, still learning to fully embrace. The meticulous perfectionist in me still fights against it sometimes, whispering doubts and insecurities. But the Elias Thorne who experienced that glimpse of eternity knows it to be true. And that knowledge, that profound understanding, is transforming me from the inside out. I am no longer just a restorer of antique carousel horses. I am a restorer of my own spirit, a craftsman of connection, and a man who has finally learned to appreciate the beauty of the imperfect, the worn, the deeply loved. The indigo and emerald hues of that other realm have become the palette of my new life, painting my world with a profound sense of peace and an unshakable, unburdened joy. The hum, that resonant chorus of perfectly tuned bells, can still be heard if I quiet myself enough. It's the sound of acceptance, of forgiveness, of a love that transcends all boundaries, all time, all space. And it is, in its own way, the most beautiful restoration of all. There are days now when the hum is almost palpable. Not a sound, as I've said, but a vibration that seems to emanate from the very air around me. It's like a constant, gentle current, a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things. I feel it when I'm working on a particularly delicate repair, when the wood grain seems to whisper secrets of its past, or when a particularly stubborn spring finally yields with a soft sigh. It's the universe breathing, I think, a slow, steady rhythm that I am finally attuned to. And this attunement, this awareness, it's the true restoration, not of the carousel horses, but of myself. Sometimes I'll be walking down the street, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, and I'll catch a glimpse of something, a child's bright scarf, the way sunlight filters through the leaves of a tree, and it will trigger a flash of that indigo and emerald. It's not a painful echo, not a longing for what was lost, but a gentle resonance, a confirmation that the beauty I witnessed is not confined to that other realm. It exists here too, in the everyday, if only I look for it, if only I am open to receiving it. My relationship with my workshop has changed profoundly. It used to be a place of relentless pursuit, of a desire to obliterate any sign of imperfection. Now, it's a space of quiet contemplation. I'll often sit for a while, just observing the tools laid out before me, their worn handles smooth from years of use. They are not just instruments of my craft. They are extensions of my own history, each dent and scratch a testament to the countless hours I've poured into my work. I no longer see them as mere objects, but as partners in a shared journey. I've noticed that when I'm particularly focused, when I'm truly immersed in the intricate dance of restoration, a faint warmth will begin to spread across my left wrist. I'll invariably glance down, almost out of habit, expecting to see the steady, reassuring tick of my watch. But as always, the hands will be still, frozen at that precise moment, 2:15 p.m. It's become a peculiar, yet oddly comforting companion. It's a physical anchor, a tangible reminder of the threshold I crossed, the boundary I traversed. It's not a marker of death, but of a profound transformation, a subtle yet undeniable testament to the fact that while my physical form may have returned to the realm of the living, a part of my consciousness, a significant part, remains tethered to that extraordinary space, to that profound, unburdened joy. The message I received, the one about Sarah, about her not blaming me, about her remembering the summer I taught her to ride her bike, it's a constant refrain in my mind. It's the counterpoint to the self-recrimination that used to plague me. When those old doubts creep in, those whispers of inadequacy, I can now push them back with the clarity of that remembered joy. Her laughter, the wind in her hair, the triumphant look on her face as she pedaled away, unsteady but free. That's the image I hold on to. That's the true masterpiece, not the gilded horses or the polished brass. I've started sketching again, not carousel horses, but abstract forms. Shapes and colors that try to capture that feeling, that hum. It's a poor imitation, I know, like trying to describe a symphony by drawing a single note. But it's my attempt to translate, to make tangible the intangible. I fill notebooks with these attempts, Pages and pages of indigo and emerald, of flowing light and resonant vibration. It's a form of prayer, I suppose, a way of keeping that connection alive, even if it's just between me and the paper. And the letters to Sarah. I've filled 3 binders now, each one a confession, an apology, a declaration of love. I was too proud, too afraid, too of Thorne to say out loud for so long. I don't send them. I don't even know if she'd want them. But the act of writing them, it's like excavating layers of rock to find the pure gold beneath. It's a slow, painstaking process, but I'm no longer afraid of the dust. I'm eager to find what's hidden. The transformation is subtle, like the slow unfurling of a petal. It's not a grand, dramatic change, but a quiet recalibration of my entire being. I'm still Elias Thorne, the antique carousel restorer, the meticulous perfectionist. But I'm also something more. I'm a man who has glimpsed eternity, who has been loved unconditionally, and who is slowly, surely learning to love himself, imperfections and all. The estranged daughter, the argument, the regret, they are still part of my story, but they are no longer the defining chapters. They are footnotes, lessons learned, stepping stones on a path that now leads towards connection, towards understanding, towards a quiet, resonant peace. The hum, that resonant chorus of perfectly tuned bells, can still be heard if I quiet myself enough. It's the sound of acceptance, of forgiveness, of a love that transcends all boundaries, all time, all space. And it is, in its own way, the most beautiful restoration of all. The Elias Thorne who walked into St. Jude's Hospital on that Tuesday is no longer the same man who eventually walked out. Not entirely. A part of him, the most vital part, remains forever bathed in that impossibly deep indigo, forever kissed by that vibrant emerald green, forever vibrating with the echo of a love that is truly boundless. He is seen, and he is loved. And for a man who spent his life chasing an elusive perfection, that is the most profound and beautiful truth of all. The world outside the workshop continues its relentless march. The overcast skies and humid air of Memphis are familiar, comforting even in their predictability. But within me, there's a new season, a perpetual spring born from that other realm. I find myself smiling more, a genuine, unforced smile that reaches my eyes. It's a smile born not of circumstance, but of an inner knowing, a deep well of peace that no earthly worry can ever fully disturb. I've started calling Sarah more often, not with a specific agenda, not with the heavy weight of expectation, but simply to connect, to hear her voice, to share a brief anecdote about my day, to offer a simple, "How are you, Sarah?" And she answers. She reciprocates. There are still silences, of course, moments where the old awkwardness threatens to resurface, but they are no longer chasms. They are gentle pauses, brief respites before the steady, hopeful current of our renewed connection carries us forward. It's like tending to a delicate bloom. It requires patience, consistent care, and the unwavering belief that it will grow. The watches on my wrist, they continue their silent protest. Each one, from the antique pocket watch that belonged to my grandfather to the modern, albeit now defunct, digital timepiece, remains frozen at 2:15 p.m. They are my personal monuments, my constant reminders. They are not symbols of my demise, but of my rebirth. They mark not the end of my time, but the moment my true time began. Time unbound by the ticking of a clock, time steeped in the wisdom of eternity. The core message echoes within me, not as a distant memory, but as a living truth. You are seen, Elias, and you are loved, imperfections and all. I've come to understand that this isn't just a pronouncement, it's an invitation. An invitation to accept myself, to embrace the flaws that make me uniquely me, to recognize that my worth is not dependent on achieving an impossible standard of perfection. It is inherent, unconditional, and as vast as the indigo expanse I once inhabited. I still restore carousel horses. It's my life's work, my passion, my anchor to the tangible world. But my approach has shifted. I no longer strive for an sterile, unblemished facade. Instead, I seek to honor the history embedded within each piece. The faded paint tells tales of countless joyous rides. The worn wood whispers of generations of delighted children. My role is not to erase these marks of time, but to enhance them, to bring them into harmony with the horse's inherent beauty, allowing their stories to continue to resonate. It's a form of conversation, a dialogue between the past and the present, mediated through my hands. The hum, I've realized, is always there. It's not just a sound or a vibration, it's an intrinsic part of my being now. It's the subtle melody of existence, a constant reminder that I am not alone, that I am part of something far greater and more beautiful than I could ever have imagined. It's the sound of the universe breathing, and I am finally breathing with it. And in that shared breath, I find a profound and unshakable peace. The restorer has at long last found his true calling, the restoration of his own soul.